Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting podcast and YouTube channel. I'm super excited because we're going to be talking today about emotional regulation. And I have a special guest. Her name is Dr. Bethany Bilodeau. She is an expert in human behavior and she has designed innovative programs to help people achieve socially, emotionally, and academically. She holds numerous certifications in behavioral therapies and has been recognized with multiple awards, including the 2024 Business of the Year on Education and Business Excellence for Social Equity. Welcome, Dr. Bethany. So
Thank you
happy
so
to
much,
have you.
Jen. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited because this is a hot topic for parents,
For
how to
sure.
get themselves regulated and also how to regulate their kids or help their kids to get regulated. All right, so let's start with the first question. What are the signs that someone may be having a meltdown or will be having a meltdown or
Oh,
becoming aggressive?
yeah. So those are some key things that you can see. And this is both true for children as well as for adults. You're looking for that chest pop, like that chest to come out, the arms to be splayed from the body. Oftentimes the fingers are separated or in fists. The chin is lifted and tilted out from the body. You can often see the whites under the eyes, which signifies that the person is emotionally unstable at that moment. If you see the whites above the eyes, then that indicates that they probably are going to become aggressive within the next few minutes. So those are some telltale signs that those things are going to be happening soon. And the
Oh,
same thing
because
for kids.
our eyes widen?
Yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
especially if you can see the white on the top, that's an indication right there that things are going to move to that person is potential to move to aggression is very high at that point.
oh, wow. Okay. So look at their eyes. I didn't even
Yeah.
think about that. Okay. All right. How should you respond if someone is having a meltdown, whether it be an adult or a child, and
Yeah.
or if they're becoming aggressive?
So energy has to meet energy. And so when that happens, especially like with adults and stuff, if you come into them and they're already dysregulated, like you think about it, if you're in your home and your partner, you're irritated with your kid or something like that, and your partner's like, hey, back it down. And you're like, I am backed it down. So you've got to meet them almost at the same energy level and then modulate the energy based on that. So if your kid is feeling really frustrated, then you want to come into them and say, I know that you're super frustrated, but right now, what we need to do is we're going to need to pick this up, or here's two options. And usually I say, do two options, don't do more than that because it overwhelms the brain. And some great options to do if you've got a little kid, it could be like caving, like you could offer them a blanket, or you could help them move into a smaller space, because if they're in a large area, their body's going to try to fill the space when they have an escalation. So their voice and their physical state is going to try to get as big as a space. So if they're in the middle of the living room, their emotions and everything else are going to be much larger than if they're in, say, the bathroom or something like that, just because of the physical components of the area. And the same thing for, for adults when they're feeling that way, like you kind of have to lean into it for a minute and then take them down based on that. A few things that I usually tell parents to do is one thing is called the stance of safety. And what I do is I stand with my feet shoulder width apart, my hips are pointed to them. I have my elbows at my side and I have my hands in front of me with my thumbs lifted. And the reason why my thumbs are lifted is because that conveys non-verbally that I have confidence to keep them safe. I also tilt my head to the left because that conveys empathy non-verbally. And I lift my chin slightly and open my mouth a little bit because then I look like I'm paying more attention by that. Even if my mouth is closed and they're going to subliminally think, oh, she's not paying attention to me, just because non-verbally that's how they read that body language. But that stance of safety, oftentimes I can walk in when there's an individual having a meltdown and within seconds are crying instead of destructing something, because of that stance makes them feel comfortable enough and safe enough where they can just kind of let that guard down.
And then what about the proximity? Like, are you close to the person that's having the
I
meltdown or?
am because that's what I do. I wouldn't recommend it, obviously, for people where, I mean, space changes based on level of safety for sure. So if somebody's level of safety has increased where they're not as safe, then you're going to back away even further just for the fact of keeping yourself safe and that sort of thing. I don't because that's my field. I move right into their space, oftentimes in their personal space, sometimes even into their intimate space, so that I can connect with them and provide them with some options to help to regulate them.
Okay. Let's get concrete for parents. Let's say that your 4-year-old is having a temper tantrum, falls to the ground, starts flailing, because you wouldn't buy them a candy in the store.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Okay, so you're watching the temper tantrum because one, you're like, "Holy crap, that's my kid doing this," and I'm now mortified because my kid is doing this in the middle of the store. We've all been there, believe me.
Mhm. There's
So
no judgment, parents. We get
at
it.
all, at all. Every parent watching you is saying, "Oh God, I wish I could help that person because I've been there." So
Yes.
you're watching their body because they can only maintain that level of intensity for about 30 seconds or so. So you're watching them have that temper tantrum, and you're waiting until they take that breath. When they take that breath, like for a second, and it's only about 2 to 3 seconds, that's your opportunity. That's when they can hear for a second. It's only for a couple seconds because they're going to go back to the tantrum. So that's your opportunity to step over to them and say, "Hey, I know that you're frustrated and I know that you really wanted that candy. And, I'm really sorry that we can't do that right now. Here's a couple of options. We can either walk out the store together holding hands, or I can carry you. Which would you prefer?" And just giving them back that level of control. They're still going to whimper and, be upset and everything a little bit, but they're not going to move back into the crisis of having that meltdown, because at that point they have to think a little bit and say, "Oh, are these decent options? Did she offer me candy? Like, where am I going with that?" And at that point, you can distract them out of it. Honestly, basically, it's like get your butt out of the store because you don't want it to happen again in front of everybody else. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you parents, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Like, I don't know,
we've
I
all been
think,
there.
yeah, um if there's still, like, let's say you do that. Let's say you say, "Okay, I know you're feeling frustrated right now." Yeah, because mom knows you want the candy, but right now is not a good time. And you have this option or this option. And what if they keep saying, "I don't want that. I want my candy. Give me my candy." Then what do you
Yeah.
do?
So then you're doing the same thing. You're waiting for them to pull themselves out for a second because they can only maintain that intensity for like 30 seconds, and then you're offering them an option again. Candy's not the option. Mom's already said no. So candy's not the option, so you're going to offer those options to them again. Sometimes you're doing some planned ignoring at that point in time too. You say, "I offered you these two options. I'll wait for you over there." And you're
Okay.
moving, yourself out of the store or towards the exit and everything, so that that child is like, because if you leave, they definitely can't get the candy. So
Right.
typically what the kid is going to do is they're going to get up and follow you going, "I want the candy, I want the candy, I want the candy," and you're still doing the same thing. You've already said it once, so you do not need to say it again. You could just simply
Yeah.
say, "I gave you two options," and move on from there. I often tell parents, don't repeat the expectation. And the reason why is it's draining. It's so often
Yeah.
for so many parents, it's like
You already said no.
you.
You don't
Yes.
have to keep saying no.
Don't repeat it. They know that the answer was no. They're doing it to try to wear you down. You're going to end up getting angry. You're going to end up saying something or doing something that you then feel like, "Oh, that wasn't my best self." And that just brings you down. So, one,
Yeah.
if it happens, give yourself grace. We've all been there. We've all
Hmm.
done that. But in the second sense of it, don't go down that road. If your kid is having you repeat over and over and over again, it's typically not because they want that item or something like that. They're doing it because they're trying to figure out who can be in control
Yes,
in that scenario.
definitely.
Mhm.
Okay. And And I also, what do you think about like maintaining calmness? Because you
Always.
said something about energy,
Yeah.
uh,
Yep.
mirrors energy, right?
Yeah.
And so if
And I
you
always,
can be
yep.
calm, I know, like it's going to be hard. Some parents are going to be triggered, some
Kids
parents are
know,
going to be like,
especially
I,
high energy kids. Yeah, they know. They
they,
know what buttons to push to make you go,
yeah,
and they're like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But the key to effectively dealing with this kind of behavior is to be as calm as possible,
Mhm.
to speak calmly, to speak softly, and to, uh, not firmly, but softly, right? Like
Yep.
lower the volume, right? And then they'll start to mirror that energy,
Right.
right? They'll be like, oh,
Meet
mom's
their
being calm
energy
with me.
and then
Yeah,
bring them where you want them to go,
yeah,
whether it's a teenager and you need them to have more energy, or it's a young kiddo and they're having, they're getting escalated and you need them to have less energy. If you
yeah,
come in with less energy, they don't know how to meet you. And
yeah,
oftentimes they just get frustrated and have a meltdown. So you've got to meet them where their energy is for just a second. So if they're like, I'm so frustrated, I know you're frustrated, but this is
mhm,
what we need to go and do. And so
yes.
you're meeting them at their energy level and then you're bringing them to where they need to go. That's how they learn how to co-regulate.
Okay, okay. Um, Also, what about eye level? What about that?
Love it. Yeah, I love it.
Right?
Honestly, I oftentimes in elementary schools or in people's homes and I'm working with little kids, I'm down on a knee, or I'm, getting myself to their level, or I'm backing up, or I'm sitting down so that I can be on that level. When I'm working in high schools, I'm wearing my taller shoes and doing all that so that I'm more on the
Yeah.
level with that age group as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think parents need to understand, like when they have little ones, that going down on your knees to talk to them eye to eye is so good
You
for
become a
communicating.
collaborator. Yeah,
And also it creates safety.
it does. Yeah.
Instead of someone hovering over them like a bear,
Yep.
right? When you come down to their level, now you're like, I want to understand, I want to help you. It's just an environment that speaks safety, wouldn't you say?
100%. Yeah. I mean, we
Yeah,
call it the collaboration approach. It makes a huge difference because instead of telling them what's going to happen and telling them is going to happen in their life, you're helping to guide them and be a support to them. And that is helping them become more independent, more autonomous, and everything else. And that's really what we want for all of our.
exactly. We're modeling and we're also teaching. Like every parent's a teacher. You know,
Always.
you're teaching your children. You're modeling the behavior that you want to see, and then you're teaching them different way or a different approach, right? You're like, how about this? Or
Yeah.
can you wait? How about if you wait and then after dinner, then maybe we can have some ice cream or something else, like to give them an alternative because you're not willing to have them eat right candy at the store right this moment. And plus, maybe you don't want to always have to give them a candy whenever you go to the store with them,
Right.
right? You
Yeah.
don't want to create that habit. But
Yeah.
when you get
Oh,
home,
if you know you're going to go someplace that has temptations, have that
yes,
conversation before
you
you
have
go in
to.
there. That we're going in
They,
there. This is what our goal is to do when we're in there. I can't get you A, B, and C today.
yeah.
So,
Here's the list.
yeah.
Is it on the list? It's not on the list.
Mhm.
That sort of thing. All right, let's step into the older kids. Because parents, a lot of times parents have trouble with teens, right? This is
It's
when the
a
attitude,
painful number of years, yes.
yeah, it's okay. You know what? It's a difficult stage, but it's an important stage. I always tell parents this, right? And plus, I have a love for teenagers because I worked with teenagers for over 17 years counseling them. So I get teenagers. But if you don't and you're struggling with the rebellion, because there is some rebellion, okay? Parents, because they're trying to grow up.
necessary.
Don't take it personally. It's not a personal thing. It's part of their development and their stage to assert their independence because they're growing up and they're becoming adults, right? So, but if it's a teenager, let's say the teenager is not listening, doesn't agree with you, okay? Which is like 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Not just kidding. It's a lot of times. It's a lot of times they don't
Yeah.
agree. Um, and they are like, no, I want to go to that dance, and you're not letting me, and I don't want to talk to you, right? And like they like slam their bedroom door. Okay, let's say that. Now they're starting. Now it's a different kind of meltdown, right? Because and also they tend to isolate too. Like they tend to like stop the conversation, you know? Whereas the little ones are not like that. So you have to have a different approach. So what would you suggest? You know, your daughter wants to go to the dance. You're
Yeah.
afraid. You don't want them to go. You don't know anybody. You don't know who they're hanging out with. It's in another city, right? Like, but you're like, no, no, you can't go. If she has a meltdown and says, "You're terrible. I hate you," blah blah blah, right? Slams her door, goes to her room. What do we do?
So one thing, no, if your kids tell you that you're terrible and that they don't love you, then you're probably doing something right. So that's right there. Just know that as a parent.
I've had the parents. I've had my boys tell me just once, but it was enough to make me pay
Yeah.
attention.
If they tell you that you're awesome and that you're the best parent and everything, you might not be giving them enough boundaries. Just saying.
Yes.
So every
Yes.
now and then you've got that rare kid that doesn't push against the tide. But one is I want kids to push against the tide. I want them
Yes.
to question things because that's how they keep themselves safe. So
Yes.
I often have these conversations with teens of, that's how you're able to tell if a situation is safe for you or not, and you're in control of your body, you have to decide what is going to be safe and what's not. So with a situation such as that, if the individual is escalated, then I'm going to give them a little bit of time to come out, or I'm going to do some things around the house that cause them to become more regulated. So whether that's I'm running the dishwasher or I'm in the kitchen filling the dog water bowl or something like that so that they can hear the water because water is a natural regulator. So I want them to be able to feel more regulated and all that. So high schoolers, they tend to shower a lot more than middle
Yes.
schoolers. So that's
Yes.
another key time. You wait until they take a shower and then you say, "Hey, hun, can I have a chat with you after you shower?" Or when they come out, you say, "Can we talk for a few minutes?" And start in with empathy. Like, I know that you want to go to this and I want to understand why, because we want to know our kids better. So, a big part of it is really saying, how can I understand more about this situation and about you and about why you want to go and how you want to go, and then make a decision based off of that. I often feel like I don't have enough information with the teens I'm
Yes.
working with and everything else in order to make a full decision. Like they'll say, talk my mother into getting me a service cat. And I'll say, well,
Yes.
explain to me what you want a service cat for. Why? Like, is it just because you want a cat and you think mom might be more prone to let you have a service cat? Or like, what's the situation? Give me some context and everything. So,
Yeah.
getting them to give you that information, you learn so much more about them. And I will say teens need more guidance, more support than oftentimes our younger kiddos do. They're
I agree.
screaming for it. Even though they're like, you got to back off. I want to be my own person and everything else. They still want to know that you're there, that you're watching, that you're doing what you need to do because it's scary becoming
Mhm.
an adult, especially in today's day and age. There's so many
Yeah.
things that are pulling them in so many different directions. And oftentimes schools personnel will say to me, they'll say, they don't fear anything, they're not scared of authority, so on and so forth. And I'm like, no, they're
Right.
scared of their lives. They're scared
Yes.
they're not going to fit in. They're scared that people are going to out them in some way on social media. They're scared
Yes.
they're going to lose all their social value. That
Mhm.
that being not one with the tribe is so much more impactful than an authority figure having a problem with you. And a lot of times it's hard for parents to understand that because we grew up in a different day and age.
So true. It is so true. I have a teenager. He's 15. Parents,
God
I
bless you.
feel your pain. I feel your pain. Okay, but I love him to de I love him to death. But I do deal with some of the attitude, and I do deal with um uh just criticizing. Like, yeah, teenagers criticize their
They do.
parents. Okay. But I've been around this rodeo before with my oldest. He wasn't as critical, but he was also critical. But what I'm learning is this: when we are always trying to connect with our kids, and when we're quick to apologize when we have done wrong, then we have more influence. I'm just saying. Like I was being very naggy this morning. I don't know, I was a little hyped up about like getting to work on time and dropping him off and all this. And he's like, Mom, just relax. Can you take a chill pill? And I was like, sorry, honey. That's like, sorry, honey, right?
Yeah,
Because yeah, maybe I was nagging a little too much, reminding him a little too much. We do that sometimes when we're anxious,
we
right?
do.
And I didn't want to be late for work, and I wanted him to get going. And it seemed like his teenagers have their own timeline,
100%.
and I mean, they do what they have to do, but not on your timeline. They have their own timeline, right? So we have to be a little more patient, right? And then we have to be quick to apologize if we're overly anxious or directing them too much,
I think that's a
because
huge
that
thing
goes a
too.
long way.
That so many kids tell me that adults don't apologize. Like
Yeah.
in the work that I do, I hear it time and time again where kids will say they adults don't apologize, my parents don't apologize, the teachers don't apologize, people don't apologize, and I'm like, well, they should. And it's like being able to self correct, that's a sign of maturity and everything else. And just because they're kids doesn't mean that they shouldn't have an apology come to them. So.
You need to model humility.
Mhm.
And when you start to model it as parents, when you start to say, yeah, I was wrong. Sorry, I hurt you. Yeah, maybe I should have listened to you. I was busy. Then that gives a relief to your kids.
Mhm.
Then they feel like you're on their side,
Yes.
right?
I also
Instead
feel
of,
like they can make mistakes and
and
they
then
can
they can apologize. They'll be
yeah.
like, oh, yeah, sorry, I didn't realize that, right? Well, like,
Mm.
we're not perfect. All of us are going to have blunders, our kids and us. And so we have to have humility with our children. And then we have to also accept their apologies and accept that they're going to make mistakes because they will,
Yeah, and they
right?
should.
That's part of life,
They should.
honestly.
And
That's
I
part of
always
life.
say have fun with failure. Like I
Yes.
often encourage parents like let them fail. I know that's
Let them
scary to
feel.
do, but your kids have to have the opportunity to fail. If they don't do it when they're young, the fear of doing it as they get older catapults their anxiety to such a
Yes.
level. Like they have to be able to feel like it's okay to fail. And I learned something from it. And that's great. It's part of the
Yeah.
journey.
Our job is not to protect them from everything. Our job is to guide them. And then sometimes they have to learn from them for themselves, right? Like we have to be the safe place where they can learn.
Yes,
You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
teenage years, they you can't control them anymore. Like you can't say you have to do this because you're just going to get rebellion,
Right.
right? Like I totally empathize with parents because having a teenager myself, and sometimes in some things he has a mind of his own. But you know what? I want him to have a mind of his own.
Yeah.
Like I want to raise a man.
Yeah.
I don't want to raise a little boy that is always seeking direction.
Hmm.
And so I am going to let him speak his mind and make some decisions, even though I don't totally agree with his decisions 100%. I listen and empathize and understand, and then I let him make the decision. Now, if it's a huge bad decision, like he's not going to any of his classes, let's say, then I'm going to have a sit down talk with him and say, what's going on? Why are you making this decision? Do you think it's a good decision? Here, this is how I'm relational, right? I always ask the questions instead of imposing my will on him. I ask him the question so he's thinking about his actions. And then I say, I love you and I want you to do what's good for you. What's good for your future, honey, not for your whim, what you want right now. Right? That
And
kind of conversation,
And there's
right?
usually a lot more to it. When kids aren't
Yeah,
going to all their classes, it's
yeah,
not as simple as they just feel like cutting. That's not
yeah.
why. Usually
You
comes
know,
down to I don't feel safe in that environment. I don't feel supported. I don't feel like I'm going to be successful. There's so many things that go into that.
yeah. What happens when we listen to our children? Like really, what happens when we listen to them? When they say, this class is, I'm really struggling with this class, mom. There's some kids that aren't doing any work at all, and I'm in a group with them, and I let him talk about it. So I understand what's happening and what's going on in his mind, right? What if I didn't let him? What if I said, I don't care, just go to class, right? How does that create safety in the home? It doesn't create safety in the
Doesn't at
home.
all. Right.
In fact, he's going to rebel even more. And now he
Exactly.
won't talk to me.
Yeah.
Now he won't tell me things, right? So that's what we have to be careful with. That the top-down approach really is not healthy,
Does
parents.
not work. Yeah,
Yeah.
it only works when they have every other skill. And who has every other skill? Like that's the
Mhm.
only time that it works. You've really got to look at what are the foundations and what are the things going on down below. Does the person feel safe? Are they regulated? Do they feel supported? And then go from there
Yeah.
for sure.
Do not expect perfection from your kids. Be careful if your kids are too well behaved. That means that they are people pleasing and that they don't have a voice. They don't listen to their voice. You want your children to question, right? Because then as adults, it's going to serve them well in life, to be able to question, think for themselves, is this right? Is this wrong? Do I agree with this? Right? Instead of just following and
Hmm.
because then now they don't speak when something really big is happening,
Right.
when
And I
they're being abused, like
yeah,
in the
those are
workplace or
those,
wherever.
yeah, those are usually the students that I worry about so much more. They're not the students I get to work with very often because they're not having disruptive behaviors in the
Yeah,
schools or in the homes. But that's the student that is struggling internally and they're internalizing everything because they just don't know how to feel successful 100% of the time, and it becomes such a huge expectation of themselves that it just catapults their anxiety and everything else, and it
yeah,
eventually it implodes in some way, and they
yeah.
have to deal with that. Yeah.
Those are the kids that end up having anxiety and depression, and then they have a total shutdown.
Yep.
Those are the kids because they were never allowed to express how they truly felt about things. They're
Yes.
just following along. Okay,
Yep.
so let's recap some of the strategies you said. Like what as a parent, you know, you have to monitor your energy, right? And you have to be calm. And if you're not calm to handle the meltdown, then you have to go and get yourself calm, right? And a lot of it is slowing it down, slowing everything down, right? That's what I learned from another parent coach. You got to slow your reaction, slow your talking, slow everything down.
Because all those bigger, more intense movements are just going to escalate that person that much more. So
Mhm.
whenever they're watching you or whatever it may be, you have to, I always say low and slow is the key.
Slow and slow. Yeah. So we're talking calmly. We're calm. We're regulated because that is going to help our children with the meltdown part.
And it's true of the environment too. Like if your kid is getting escalated and everything else, and the dog is running back and forth, and the TV is on, and you've got lights on and everything else, start shutting those things off. Put the dog in the other
Yes.
room. Do those things because humans, we track movement and sound. So if there's a lot of movement and a lot of sound, that is going to escalate the person that much more.
Right. Okay. And then we're going to okay, so with the toddlers, we can let them have their meltdown. And then when there's a break from the crying or the
Yeah,
meltdown, then we can suggest something.
right.
We can
And
we
you're
can
giving them just like one or two options, and it's
yeah,
only for a couple seconds. If you don't
yeah.
catch it in that couple seconds, they're going to go right back into the meltdown again because
Okay.
they're just getting
Okay.
their second wind.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, like if your toddler, you know your toddler. If your toddler gets comforted by you being close and you rubbing them or holding their hand or something, then you do that. You do what you know helps your toddler to calm down, right? Because
Mhm.
you knew them as babies, so you know what works, right?
Right.
So do that, whatever works with your child to get them calm. And then you can have the conversation and ease them into cooperation with you, right? With the teens, if they slam the door and they leave, we give them a break. We don't rush in and try and problem solve right now, right?
Yeah, that will escalate.
Yeah. So we're going to give them space, but we're going to do some relaxing things at home. Turn the water on. I love the sound of water. Okay, turn the water on. Just continue the movement of the home, right? And then when your teen is ready, you'll know when your teen is ready because your teen maybe come out, or
Yep.
you can also I've done this when my son closes the door. I knock on the door and like, can we talk now? Can we talk about this now? And then and if he says yes, then I'll have a conversation. Okay, so um, did I overreact? Tell me why you're so upset. This is the counselor in me. I can't help it. Tell me why you're so upset, honey. And then he can tell me, right? I want to hear from him because that again, we're modeling cooperation and an alignment with each other. That we're in a family to try to support each other, right? So it's super important. And I always find that de-escalates or that calms down my son,
Yeah.
right? When I
And
say,
every
okay,
kid is different. And there's some kids that don't do well with the talking. So know what
mm-mm,
medium works for your child. So,
mhm,
one of my children, he always, it's in a text. Like he works through things in a text with me. My other one, he wants to talk things out and go through each scenario and everything else. It's just the way he processes. But know your kid because some of them
yeah,
they don't always process well face to face. Sometimes it has to be car therapy sort of an
yes,
activity or something
yes,
like that, or while you're making dinner or something. They can't hold that eye contact, or they need to do it through a text or something. But, be aware of that because it can be very intimidating if we come in and say, what's up with you? Are you okay? Let's talk about this. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. And if you're getting a lot of the I'm fines, then you know that your kiddo is they're not comfortable communicating in that way. And you
right.
probably want to try a different method.
Okay, okay. What happened? Your camera froze. Okay. Unfreeze, unfreeze. Okay, there. That's the point. See when it does that. Okay. Okay, I think that's a good tip. And parents, you know your child best. You know what works and you know how they show you how they want to communicate, right? Like so they'll respond by text. If you get a lot of text, then you know that's their go-to. And if they want you to come and sit, or if they are talking to you while you're in the car, then you know that's the time. Or if they come into the kitchen and you're preparing dinner and they're like hanging around you, that's the time, right? So you got to figure out what works. When's the best time to talk to your teen about it? And then I always say open with a question because questioning opens dialogue. Okay. So open with a question. So you were really upset about this. Do you want to talk about it? Like what's going on? Do you think mom's being unfair by not letting you go? Do you understand where mom's coming from? That mom's worried about you? You know, I love you very much, right? I don't want anything to happen to you. I always say this to my kids. They know I love you so much. I would not do well if anything happened to you. I need to know you're safe, right? Because my oldest is an adventurer and he does a lot of crazy things. So I get scared.
I have two boys. I can relate. So.
So I have to calm my fears, but I also want them to know because I love them so much. I want them to say, "Did you think about this, this, and this?" Right? So I think that's really good.
Yeah, and
Okay, so
it's hard as a
yeah,
parent sometimes too to not have judgment about it. And that's something we oftentimes really need to work hard at. And if, as far as like not showing judgment on our face and not providing judgment, because at that point that we're really there to help guide and help them see what are the different consequences for different activities and things like that so that they can make the best decision for them. So, and
yeah,
the more we have judgment on it, that usually forces them to make a decision that might not have been the decision they would have made. Either
right.
say, you're wrong, mom, and I'm going to make that decision, or to do something that might not necessarily be in alignment with who they want to be as a person.
Yeah. That's why I think questioning is good because it makes your
Right.
child stop and think.
Yeah.
Maybe that isn't the best thing, right? Maybe that isn't what's good. Like I always say it to my children, like, is that safe? Are you going to be safe? You know, because my son goes on these crazy trails that are like people don't go on. And I'm like, yeah, are you going to be safe? How do you know you're going to be safe? What do you have to keep you safe? Like, this is a conversation I have with him. It's really to ease my mind too,
Yeah, because
right?
the more details he can give you about how he's going to be safe is going to make you feel more comfortable. And it
Yes, like
allows you to plan.
yeah, when he's prepared, when I see he's so prepared, then I'm my fear is lessening and lessening, right? It's not totally gone, but it's totally lessened a lot. So the judgment part, I think, comes from parent fear. So
100%.
we have to really be careful. Parent fear comes from our childhood
Hmm.
because our parents were fearful, right? Like my parents are very fearful and overly protective. And so I've had to really work on that part in my parenting because I know how it affected me. It made me scared
Hmm.
and it made me not try things. And so I don't want my children like that. I want my children to try things and not be scared. So I have to hold back my fear, right? But ask the questions and stuff, but I have to let them, right? Even though I'm scared, let them. They have to live,
They do.
right? So that's part of our parenting role is letting go and letting them try different things, even though it makes us scared,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
probably one of the hardest things we do as a parent is letting our children do, especially do something that we think is not going to be successful in some way.
Yes, yes. And I think a lot of times the meltdown happens because our children don't feel like heard
Hmm.
or they don't feel supported, right? Or they don't feel listened to. A lot of times the meltdown can happen from that because maybe you ignored me and now I'm telling you something important and you're still not listening or whatever it is. That's why, we have to, we're, our kids mirror are mirrors to us to help us to see what we're doing and what we can do better. So, so the meltdown could be really great in the sense that you're learning something about your
Always.
child,
Yeah.
what you're doing.
And about
Like,
yourself
yes,
constantly.
and about
Our
yourself.
kids
Like,
are constantly showing us things about ourselves and the person we want to be. Yeah, 100.
exactly, exactly. Ah, such a good conversation. Okay, Dr. Bethany, please tell parents where they can find you, and connect with you.
The easiest way to find us is at www.thebehaviorbootcamp.com.
Okay, excellent. All right, parents. Well, you heard it. Okay, I thank you so much, Dr. Bethany. That was
Having me.
so good. Now I'm going to be looking at the eyeballs. I'm going to be looking at the white of the eyes, and then I'm going to know, uh-oh. So thank you so much for breaking
Welcome. Thanks
down
for having me.
uh, emotional dysregulation, and then how do we get ourselves regulated and how we get our children regulated. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for all your great tips. All right, parents, thank you. I hope that this show was helpful and insightful. I know it was insightful for me. Okay, so take care, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you, parents, for joining the show today. I hope it was valuable and that you have some useful tools to use with your children. If this show blessed you or changed you in any way, I would appreciate a review on my podcast, or subscribe to my YouTube channel, or perhaps you could even recommend our masterful parenting to your family and friends. Thank you so much, parents.